Hey everyone, I'm really happy today to be joined by Georgie. Georgie is COO at a high growth tech company here in the UK. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rich. I'm the founder of MoveMeOn.com. It's a global platform for people who have done consulting. So Georgie and I are going to talk all things tech, all things joining startups and scale-ups, and particularly that path to COO. And with that, Georgie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You'll do a much better job than I will.
Thanks, Rich. Hi, everyone. I'm Georgie Johnson. I'm here to talk about my career path from consulting into health tech. So kind of going back to my starting point, I studied 2 years of marketing and health education before starting as a consultant at IMS Health, which is now part of IQVIA. During my time there, I worked mainly on global pharmaceutical projects and really got a focus over the years I was at IMS into working on business operations and looking with pharma businesses how they prepare the whole business globally for launch of pharma products, which really set me up well to move into operations. I left IMS in 2015. Did a 2-year stint at a diabetes wearable startup, which was part of a larger security tech organization. And then in 2017, met my current boss, Murray, and moved over to eConsult Health. So I've now been at eConsult for 5.5 years. I joined when there were 15 of us and had kind of the generalist strategy lead role. Working very closely with the founders and really found my groove and got involved and loved the operations side of things and had this amazing opportunity to shape the operations of the business whilst we grew very quickly. So we grew over 3 years and got to a point where we went out to raise our Series A investment in 2020. We grew to a team size of about 130. And then through various factors, the kind of roller coaster ride of startup scale up life, we're now down to about 80 people. And we provide online consultation to 40% of UK GP practices. And we do iPad check-in at 9 A&Es in the UK, currently implementing into another 11. And we're also doing a pilot in outpatients where we're focused on reducing the wait list for specialist appointments when people are referred from their GP into hospitals. So that's an overview of how I've got here.
Awesome. And like you obviously have ended up in COO role. You said you found your groove for operations. Who does that role really suit?
It really suits people who, and I'm talking from my experience in a small growing business, are hands-on, they really push to get results, and it's all about bringing people with you. So what I've found in operations, it's all about the people. So you've got to have the vision, and overarchingly, my role is to deliver our business strategy. So that means we have to have the right people in the right roles. We need to be following processes consistently, but also have that flexibility to adapt when we need to. But going back to kind of who this role is suited for, I think it also depends on your CEO. So the COO-CEO relationship is really, really critical. I work very closely with Murray and have done now for almost 6 years, and we have a good kind of jigsaw skill set mix. So we suit each other well. So I think advice there for someone looking at a role in a startup. Look at those people around you and make sure that you're going to gel well with them. But for me, it's the ability to get stuff done, and all consultants have that ability to get stuff done. And then as you grow and become more senior in the business, it's empowering others to get stuff done and to get stuff done well.
And is that a skill that you've kind of really learned in your time outside consulting? So on your route to COO, it sounds like this working through others has maybe been something you've had to develop and learn. So I guess what are the skills that you've picked up that you didn't have in consulting?
I think work is a lot less structured. It is. At my time in consulting, you would work for a number of different clients, maybe 4 to 6 projects, and the projects itself the projects themselves were incredibly structured. So you'd always have, a senior person leading it, a team below them. You'd be following a pretty similar project plan for each of those projects, especially in pricing and market access in pharma. I think what I've learned here is really the power of prioritization. So when you're responsible across the business for operations, so Rich, I was slightly late for the meeting this morning because we're going live in a hospital. And so I know that those guys on site today are my number one priority. And I'm here.
You also emailed me, which most people don't do. They just leave you hanging. So
that's just being polite. So I think that's really what I've learned, is kind of picking up and being able to prioritize across a great breadth. But I think that ultimately was trained into me as a consultant. You're managing multiple projects concurrently, and you have to be able to have that breadth of knowledge and the depth of knowledge into each of those projects. So I think that breadth and depth training has really helped me in my current role now. Another thing that comes up, which I always find remarkable, is my I would say limited in the context of other consultants' Excel skills. I never did any modeling when I was a consultant, but just being able to have a project plan where you kind of put in a date and it impacts the whole project plan, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that's
probably get ChatGPT to do that for you.
I know. The world has changed.
My Excel skills are famously useless by consulting standards. I did everything I could to avoid them, and yet I can chop a bit of data around and maybe build out a pivot table. And it's amazing how many gasps that still gets. And like, what in your role, what are the best bits? What kind of gives you a kick? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I just love being involved in everything across the business. So that's what I found that I loved at IMS, was you could do these pricing and market access projects, which are really, really detailed, and saying, right, we're launching this product in 3 years' time. What is the price going to be in these 8 global markets? And it was really detailed and it was interesting. But what I loved was that kind of actual launch preparation. What are we doing across a whole business to make sure that this is a success? And I love that at eConsult. So I work, as I say, to deliver the business strategy. That involves getting the right people in the right place, but it also involves making sure that cross-functional communication is happening. So is that person in product talking to that person who's selling the product in the commercial team? How can we make sure that communication is optimized? How can we make sure everyone's driving forwards to the common goal? So a big element of that for us is our OKRs, our objectives and key results. And that's something that I really drive across the business and that we review every 2 weeks at our exec meetings. So we do our annual, but end of March now. So I'm proud to say, done our year goals for next year, starting 1st of April. All the teams now have their goals for the first quarter, and they're presenting those back to the company. So everyone across the business knows what everyone else is working on. It's really clear where the dependencies are between the different teams. And that really just provides that foundation for it being a transparent way to work, but also to make sure that people are supporting each other where they need to.
And diving into OKRs specifically, because OKR is a term that gets used a lot. And I had a lot of people in my network who go, oh, we've never really managed to make it work. Sort of nice in theory, but haven't managed to kind of make it stick. What are your top tips? It sounds like you have, so I'm interested in the secret sauce.
It's taken 3 years, I think, to get to this point. It isn't something that happens overnight. I think the key learnings that I found were we had people in our organization we had some ex-consultants, we had some people who'd come from bigger organizations like Nike, we had a lot of people from the NHS, we had other people that had come from other tech startups. So you have a lot of different cultures coming together and a lot of different approaches to managing objectives and working towards a common goal and delivering on a vision. And I think in hindsight, we didn't do enough around communicating why OKRs were the right thing for us and bringing everyone onto the same page. So in hindsight, I wish we'd done that better. I think the OKRs is quite a relatively rigid structure. You can go all the way down the path of OKRs of having, the 0.1, 0.2, your percentage of how you've completed each of your key results. We don't go that far. We felt it was too much. It was quite a burden on the teams to manage it to that level of detail. So we have objectives, we have the key results. Everyone knows how to write them. I think that's
are they quarterly? Are they?
Quarterly, yeah. We do annual and quarterly, and the teams do quarterly ones. And then I think it is just having someone at a senior level who is checking in with people, I'd say every fortnight. Have you updated them? Are you stuck anywhere? Do you need any help from other teams? So I think once that attention drops off, then teams tend to just revert back to old ways of doing things. So I think it's that senior buy-in and leadership and drive makes it successful.
Commitment. And it sounds like you have a 2-weekly senior team meeting as kind of an anchor point. So how much of that meeting is around kind of OKR, or is the whole meeting framed around the OKR?
So we actually have that meeting every week, and we have a dedicated 20-minute slot every 2 weeks to run through the OKRs. We felt kind of week by week was a little bit too often. So in that weekly meeting, we have set slots. So we have 20 minutes for our CTO to run through the roadmap and progress with current sprints. So for anyone who isn't au fait with kind of tech ways of working, our tech team work on a 2-week sprint cycle. So we work with them at the start of each quarter to determine what their objectives are for that quarter, and then they break it down into 2-week chunks of work. So every week at our exec meeting, we review, okay, how are all of the different squads, which are groups of product and engineering team members who work together to solve specific issues. We work through the squads, look at their sprints, look at their progress. We have a forecast and pipeline update from our Chief Revenue Officer. I normally do an update on current projects. We once a month have an update on our management accounts. So it's quite a structured meeting that I chair each week, and every other week we
length of that meeting.
Sorry?
What's the length of that meeting in total?
It's 90 minutes or 2 hours if we have a critical issue to solve together.
Okay, interesting. And a sort of couple of things I want to pick up on. So we are currently in 2023. You know, people might be watching this video in 2053. So let's put that in context. We've just been through the pandemic. How are you guys operating in terms of office use, work from home? What's your perspective on that? How's it impacting your operations, right?
Yeah, it's been an interesting learning curve. So as with everyone else, 3 years ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 years, 2 weeks ago, we went into a fully remote situation. We hadn't really had anyone working remotely up until that point. So it was all quite new to us, but thanks to our amazing head of IT, he made it really super slick for us to be able to do that. So we worked the first few months of the pandemic, everyone was at home. It also turned out to be our busiest time ever because the government mandated online consultation for GP practices in week 2 or 3 of the pandemic. We were the market leading provider of online consultation for NHS GPs, and we had to completely rework our process to go live in GP practices from what was a kind of month-long process down to we can get your practices live in the next 3 days. So we were all working around the clock. So I think everyone's opening into working from home was pretty manic. And working 7 days a week. So I think kind of when we had a chance to breathe a few months later, we talked a lot about how we can optimize our work-life balance when, as everyone else, you're working in the same room that you might be sleeping in or your children might be in. So we've done a lot of work as a business thinking about transition phases. So, physically shutting down your laptop, leaving your house, going for a walk, coming back. We use a lot of Slack statuses to show what you're doing. You carve out your lunch break, have some focus time, don't just sit in back-to-back meetings. But that came really through learning and doing it the wrong way. Fast forward to now, we operate a hybrid working system. So we encourage people to be away from home more than they're at home. And the reason we say that is a lot of our team are, like there's a team today, on hospital sites implementing our product to go live. Some people are at GP practices 2-3 times a week. Others are at hospital sites. So we're not going to force those people to come into the office for 3 days and then go into a hospital site for 2 days. So we say usually you're away from home more than you're at home. So that's normally 3 days in the office if you're an office-based member of the team. Some of our team love to come into the office. So we have some people who come in 5 days a week, which is great. But what we do know and what we have recognized is that collaboration is better face-to-face than it is virtually. And for us, that means we focus on having team days when everyone's in the office, We have designated company days where we try and get everyone in, and that's happening at the moment every 6 months, because we also have an added complexity that we have a second office down in Brighton. So we try and get those guys all up at least twice a year, but often, I mean, I think there's 3 of them in the London office today, so they come up and down when they need to. But for us, it's that flexibility, but it's flexibility within a structure. So it didn't work for us to just say, kind of come into the office when you want to. People didn't know who was going to be around. You ended up having a lot of hybrid meetings, which we simply find don't work for us. You'd have kind of 6 people in the office, 4 on the phone. It just wasn't very effective. So
one person at home in that situation.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's tough for the person facilitating that meeting, because you've got to put a lot of energy into making sure that they're involved in the conversation, that they're contributing, that they feel included. It's not impossible, but ideally people are in the same room if you're having a meeting like that.
And so you're sort of majority away from home, so call it 3 days a week. Yeah. How long has that been in place, and has everybody sort of embraced it and, you know, realized the value of coming together, or have you got some friction?
It's taken us a while to get to this point. I think we had the kind of quite relaxed come in when you want to, and certain people were, others weren't. So we really pushed this out, I'd say probably 3 months ago, to really be quite clear that this is the expectation. There hasn't been too much friction. I think the more people that come in, the more value that people get out of coming in. So if we have these set days, and our set days are kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then people enjoy it. And, you know, we hired a lot of people when we were 100% remote. So a lot of these people were onboarded remotely, and they didn't have that benefit of, you know, everyone talks about it. You know, the coffee machine chat is actually a huge thing. You know, in my 20s, I made some amazing friends at work. It wasn't all about the job. And in consulting, you know, you're thrown in at the deep end, you're working long hours together, but you're also going out together on a Friday, going to get lunch together. And that element of work, I think, has just been completely missed. So I think people are now realizing that there's a benefit, and they're enjoying it, which is great.
Brilliant. I have one more question about your role now, and then maybe we'll close with a top tip for anybody who's maybe in consulting, thinking about leaving for a start. And I wanted to go back to your relationship with CEO, and you said we've got a nice jigsaw. Like, what is the jigsaw? So what is Murray's kind of strength superpowers? What are yours, and how it sounds like that's a good working relationship, and I know situations where that's not the case. So anything you can share on that jigsaw, I think, could be helpful.
Sure, absolutely. So I think, starting broad, kind of my advice for anyone leaving consulting is, it's pretty obvious, but I don't think I thought about it when I left. In smaller businesses, you are just going to spend a lot more time with a close-knit group of people. You're not jumping onto a new project every 2 or 3 months. You are working day in, day out with the same people. So finding people that you get on with, I think, is just the #1 priority. So the job role might not be your perfect job role. It might not be 100%. It might be 70% of what you're looking for. But if you're working with someone that inspires you and that you think you'll get on with when you're working, I think that is, you know, the killer move. I think go for it. I think with Murray, I mean, I focus on delivery, getting stuff done, process. I'm very detail orientated. And Murray is incredible at, you know, selling our business, be the external face of the business, the visionary strategy, and then we work together with the other members of our fantastic exec team to deliver that and get it done. So kind of, that's not very detailed, but I hope.
Yeah, no, there's sort of that external versus internal. So, you know, another business I spoke to had a very similar, where actually the COO said he described himself as the in-year CEO, who was like, my job is to hit the numbers in 2023, and the CEO's job is to set us up for success.
I love that description.
Beyond 2023, and it sounds quite similar. There you go. You're now CEO. I've promoted you, if that's a situation.
I don't want that role yet, thank you.
Awesome. Look, this has been really, really interesting for me, and I hope everybody who's listened in has found it great too. So thanks so much for the time, and if anybody wants to listen to other people, there's plenty more videos here, and check out my LinkedIn. There's all sorts of content there too. Hope the launch goes well. I hope you haven't had your team ringing you madly saying we're in our new hospital and nothing works. So
I trust them. I'm sure it will be fine.
with all the detailed prep, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much.